Hey there, welcome back to another episode of Software is a Team Sport. And today I have Shashi Lo with me. And Shashi, go ahead and introduce yourself for everyone else.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Chris. I'm Shashi Lo. I'm a senior UX engineer at Microsoft. I work on the Azure pricing calculator team. So anything calculation wise, I own the front end for that. But on the side of that, I do my best to help individuals break into tech by mentoring, reviewing portfolios, and answering questions where I can.
Oh, that's awesome. Cool. And you do a lot of that on X or Twitter or whatever it is these days, right? Awesome.
Yeah. On Twitter and then on LinkedIn, I've been trying to get more involved in there as well to kind of broaden the audience. But yeah, I started on there. The reason why I started on X was because there was a lot of comments and feedback towards other beginners that were just really far left. And I was like, like we need some honest opinions here. A lot of people were saying, "Hey, great job on your portfolio, all the work." And I'm like, you know, to be honest, that's probably not gonna get you a job. Like, I don't want to be like negative about it, but I want to provide honesty for you because when you go apply for a job, they're gonna ghost you or tell you no, and you're not gonna know why. And so, I wanted to be more active on there to provide an honest voice, an experienced voice, so that these individuals can understand what it takes to get their first job or get a freelance opportunity or just to kind of get involved in the community.
That's awesome. Cool. Yeah, I think there's also like Leon Noel. He does a really good job of helping beginners and boot camp grads and all that stuff as well. Like it's just cool to see a lot of the content that's there for people trying to break into the industry. It's really nice.
Oh yeah. I love the 100 devs. Lane and I we talk here and there, and it's amazing what he's doing. Like I couldn't do what he does for sure.
Yeah, he's great. Okay, so yeah, you mentioned that you do some like mentoring type stuff. Could you maybe describe what some of that is, like what the process is even like?
Yeah, so currently I have a group called the Gridiron Survivor Project. It's kind of an apprenticeship. I have about 10 individuals that are in there, and I saw that there was a gap between boot campers and first self-taught and first job. There's just a lot of process and things involved that they didn't have, and they couldn't learn because they didn't know what it took to get there. And so what I do in this group is I split them up into pods. UX engineering, which they focus on bridging the gap between design and engineering, and then functional engineers, where they work with the data, the database, manipulations, and all of that. So by doing that, then they're very siloed and not siloed, but focus on areas, and they can cross function if they want to, but then they know their main role, and that way they can communicate just like with the three of them, opposed to like the whole team. And that creates like the communication barriers that you wouldn't get if you were doing your own project or if you're working just with another person. And then we also have an industry designer, my friend that I've been working with for a long time, Jaina. And so me and her, I've been in an industry for 10, 15 plus years. And so having that experience and guiding and putting in a process that they can run has been very good for them because number one thing is when you work on your own projects, you are the architect. Everything is good, everything goes in. But when you work as a team, when you have a senior that reviews your code, that says, "Hey, like this is not good. This is not what I'm looking for. Please redo it." Making sure that the quality and the communication that these individuals are having with one another is good in quality, because everybody has a different way to communicate.
Hmm.
And if you can't learn how to work together with different personalities, different everything, then it's going to be very hard for you to go and do that on the job. And same thing like when you're a team, right? Like you have to learn each other. You can't just be like, oh, everybody's going to be just like me. They're going to learn like me. They're going to be fast like me or everything. No, some people's levels are lower, some are higher. Some translate things by words, some translate it by video. So a lot of things that you have to adapt to. And that's why I created these separate teams, because then it's like, okay, you don't have to focus on all 10 people. Just focus on your pod. That way, when you get better at that, then you can go cross-functional if you need to. And if you need me or the designer, then reach out to us. And that hierarchy is the same thing like a company, right? Like you don't
Mm-hmm.
want to go straight to the boss right away and say, hey, I don't know how to, do this merge conflict. It's like, well, ask your team first. Like your team should know how to do it and should be able to guide you. These little things where when do you go to these levels? When do you go to these individuals to communicate and to work together? And I think that's a great way to build a camaraderie, is to have them be in their own kind of pods so they can own their pods. Because next week, we're going to have them do sprint demos. And I told them, hey, for each pod, at least one demo, right? That way they can collectively come together and figure out what they're going to do together. Um, this creates a great way for them to not just communicate amongst one another, but then allow to see who steps up. I always tell them that it's a hidden thing that I do to see who steps up, because the ones that step up and go above and beyond, those are the ones that are going to go further in life and further in their career. Because when you get a job as an engineer, you're not done. Like you have to spend so much extra time to research, to do all these things outside of work just to catch up. And so if you can't do that, then you may not be able to survive in this industry, because it's just so grueling and so intense, because there's so much that you have to learn.
Yeah. Yeah, like especially the idea of like what happens in a sprint planning meeting. No one's going to cover that in boot camp, right?
Yeah.
So like being able to go through that actual like the work process is really
Hmm.
helpful. I like that. That's very cool. And yeah, like I've been in meetings before where I'm the only dev actually speaking up and saying like, yeah, we're not going to get that done in 2 days. Like not do it well at
Hmm.
least, right? Like and that needs to be said. Otherwise, you're going to be setting bad
100%.
expectations on the job, you know?
Yeah, and I think that's the best thing to you brought up a good point, is I always tell them, like, just because I'm seasoned doesn't mean that your voice doesn't matter. It does,
Mhm.
because I've worked with other juniors that are very naive and they come up with ideas or things. I'm like, you know what? We didn't think about that. That's a great idea. And I always tell them too, same thing is, no question is a dumb question, right? Every question is a question. And sometimes in our demos, I will ask the dumb questions, even though I know it. I know that everybody else is thinking it. And that's what I do very well, is like, hey, like, how do you use React? I'm like, well, I know, but maybe they are asking, somebody else is thinking that. So I'll ask it for them, because they're all beginners. And I'm pretty sure not every single one of them understands what is being involved with this demo and how it works and stuff like that. So those are the things I'm trying to train them up on too, is, hey, if you have a question, like, speak up, because I made a mistake early on in my career, not saying anything, saying, it's okay, I'll figure it out later. And then I never figure it out. I get lost. And it's like,
Right.
I should just asked, because it's a simple 10 seconds to ask and get a response.
Yeah, I like the way you approach that too, because basically, when you ask someone to explain something that you already know, they still gain the knowledge of being able to explain it. And that's like getting another
Hmm.
level of understanding, right? Like, there's
Hmm.
certain
Yeah.
levels, right? There's
100%.
like knowing it yourself, and then there's being able to explain it to someone else. And that is
Hmm.
like, yeah, you're helping them get that extra bit. I like
Yep,
that.
I totally agree with that.
Um, so how do you go about like, is everyone always like present at the beginning of some of these projects, or do you onboard people sometimes like partway through?
Yeah. Well, when I first started, it was everybody's there, but then some people got jobs, some people got busy, and then I will recycle a few of them. My objective is to try to keep at least half of the team that has been there for 6 months. That way, when I add new individuals, they can help onboard them.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I have to onboard a whole brand new set of people, that's very tough. You got to do it
Yeah.
all over again, right? But
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of just like a company. You're going to have people that are there that can help onboard. If you have good onboarding docs, then they will get onboarded. And I told my team specifically, this is your opportunity to step up. This is your opportunity to help another person get on before I do it. Because if you can't do it, then that's a shortfall of me, of not
Mm-hmm.
teaching you well enough to teach another person to get acclimated and to get started. right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I put a really high precedence on that because the whole team should know the fundamentals of the project, how things work, and the process itself. You know, like we were talking about, like the sprint board, sprint planning, all that stuff. All these things we've gone over for months. And if you can't explain it to somebody and you don't understand it, then that's my fault. And I need you to tell me that so that I can explain it better to you so that you can translate that to a new person. And so I like that because then it empowers everybody to like share knowledge, to collaborate. It builds that camaraderie where it's like, oh, we're open and honest, and we all are at the are gonna help one another when we need it.
Yeah. 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 Makes a lot of sense. How much of this kind of like applies to your day to day work at Microsoft?
It applies a lot to my day-to-day work at Microsoft. Currently, I have a few members on my team, full-time employees, but then we have contractors that we contract to work on another part of our application, right? So overall, there's probably 9 to 10 people on the team, and with the contracting team, it's kind of like the Gridiron Survivor team where they're working on a separate project. I have to code review the things that goes in, ensure the quality's there, nothing's breaking, unit tests are all there, right? And then also the same time, onboarding them and having them understand the scope of work and the coding standards that we're trying to set. That has been very difficult because through the code reviews, it's iterative, and I try to do my best to explain it and tell them like, hey, if you need help to understand this, let me know so we can set some time apart to understand this, because moving forward, this is the way we're going to be unit testing or writing this logic. So it goes hand in hand. It's like pretty much the same thing that I'm doing for both teams. I'm doing the same kind of style where I'm just overviewing and ensuring that the code quality is there, process is there. On my Microsoft team, obviously we have our own product owners and managers, so I don't have to create the tickets and manage the board. But on the Grand Survivor side, because we don't have that, then I have the knowledge to do that. I'm do it to my best ability, and guide them and all that. So yeah, on the day to day, I would say what I'm trying to do with the Grand Survivor team is pretty much the same as what the Microsoft contractors are experiencing. And I think that's the best thing for these individuals is they're getting that same experience that if you came in as an intern or something on my team at Microsoft, you would get that same feel. You would get me. You would get me like hounding you on PRs, ensuring you're getting things done, mentoring you if you're stuck. If you have questions, I'll walk you through certain pieces of code or the logic itself. So there's a lot of similarities involved.
Okay. Yeah, and like that's kind of nice. Like because on Gridiron Survivor, you get to actually like practice up some of the product owner stuff that you're maybe not
Mhm.
as familiar with. So you're learning along with them while it's happening, which is beautiful.
100%. Yeah.
Um, what would you say you really try to encourage in the code review process? Like, because you
Mhm.
mentioned code review a couple times there. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, what would you
Um,
say you do? Go ahead.
Yeah, what I usually do in code reviews is obviously I'm looking at the quality, right? But when I find something that doesn't meet the bar, my comments aren't harsh. They're like, hey, this is complete wrong. Like, do it better. No, it's like, hey, have you thought about doing it this way? Or, hey, is there a better way to optimize this? Right. My first question is you figure it out. I'm not going to tell you, but I'm going to prompt you so that you
Mm-hmm.
think about it. Like, is there a better way? No? Okay. Then I'll tell you, yes, there is. But if you're like, why is he asking me that? There's probably a better way. Yes, there is a better way. And I'm trying to help you get there because I'm a big believer that if you can figure a lot of this stuff out on your own, maybe not 100% of it, but more than 50% of these issues and these optimizations on your own, you're going to grow as an engineer so much faster than me handholding you and giving you all the answers, right? And
Yep.
the Gridiron Survivor team and the contracting team, even my own team, they understand this too. I do that to them, and I'm like, no, like I'm intentionally doing this so that you understand it. Because how can you understand it if I feed you the information? you
Right.
won't understand it. But if you understand it, then next time you're going to say, huh, can I do better? Yes, you can. Then go figure it out. Because the more experience, the more things you figure out, the faster your career is going to go up in trajectory. And the Grand Survivor team, they hate it, but they love it. And I told them it's tough love, but I'm never gonna leave you dry. I'm gonna continue to lead you and point you down the right direction until it gets to the point where it's like, okay, if it's been a month and you can't figure it out, yeah, I will help you out and I'll tell you where it is. But you need to learn. You need to get better at this. Maybe it's a skill gap. Maybe it's a process gap. Something, there's a gap somewhere where why it took so long. So we need to figure that out. But my mentality is always, hey, like if I can prompt you and you can learn it more so on your own, that's gonna go a longer way. Not just for me, but for you.
Yeah, I like that. On my Twitch stream, I'll often get people like asking me for very specific, like, how do I do this one thing? And usually I won't even try and answer that question for them. I'll just ask them, what did you search for on Google?
Yeah.
Right? Like, tell me what your keywords even
Yeah.
were that you
Yeah.
didn't find this, because
Yep.
Googling is a skill and you can build that. But if you
Yep.
don't practice it, if you don't hone it, then you're going to be reaching out to random Twitch streamers to answer that question, which is a
Yeah.
terrible idea. Right?
That's very funny because one day an engineer asked me, they said, "Hey, is there a better way to search for like bugs or issues?" And I said, "I don't know, how are you doing it?" And I said, "This is how I would do it." And they watched me search for a particular issue. Within seconds, they're like, "I didn't know you could do that." And I was like, "Well, I didn't know. It's natural to me." But I was filtering the results by the recent year or month because,
Mm-hmm.
in engineering, when you search for anything in JavaScript or Node or React, you get a lot of old stuff. And the
Yep.
version you're on is outdated and the solution they're giving you is probably not going to work. But if you
Mm-hmm.
filter by most recent results or filter by just a certain time frame, then you get better results and better accuracy and all that stuff. And they didn't know that. And I was like, oh, I don't know. I just do this all the time and it works.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's simple stuff like that, like it's like, yeah, Googling is a skill.
It is. Yeah. I've definitely like seen a few times where someone's like, "Well, this Stack Overflow said to do this," but yeah, that's from 2012. Like, I'm sorry, it's no
Yeah.
longer accurate,
Yeah. Yeah. It's not gonna
right?
work.
Yeah. Yeah. So maybe back to code review a bit. I really like the way that you mentioned that you try and just like ask them like questions. You try and make it like
Yep.
soft, because it's very easy for code review to be like misunderstood. When someone
Yep.
leaves a comment, they're not getting your tone, right? Like they
Yep.
just, or when someone sees your comment, they're not getting your tone. They just see the text and then they like impart a tone. So sometimes they may interpret it harsher than they could. So you have
Yep.
to be like extra conscious of framing your
Mhm.
comments properly. And there's a tool I've used. Have you heard of conventional comments? It's not even a
I
tool. It's
have.
just like a pattern.
Yeah, I have. I don't use it.
Yeah, it's really nice on Teams to just like make sure that people are like giving those notes. So like there's conventional commits for like your commit
Yep.
messages,
Yep.
sure,
Yep.
right?
We use
But
that. Yeah.
conventional comments take it further to where like when you leave a comment, you can leave like nit or
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
just certain things that aren't necessarily like you have to fix this, but I just, could
Yeah.
we name this better? Things like that. And it
Mm-hmm.
gives that little like bit of context ahead of time, which is nice.
Yeah. Yeah. I use Knit all the time. Knit and then required. That's it. But it's been difficult, not for me, but for others on the Grand Survivor team to understand when you add a comment, what's a knit and what's not a knit. And I think that's been the struggle with the team is everything's in it. And it's like, wait, hold on here. One thing, if it's required, it's breaking it or it's going to optimize the site now, then that it's not a knit. But if it's not required and it works and whatever, then it's a knit. And then for me, like put comments in because I am the senior and I comment for them. Most of them are not knits, and they feel like their comments measure to mine. And I'm like, no, 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 no. Like, my experience is telling you that you should be doing these things, and this is helping you. If it's a knit, I would tell you it's a knit, but other than that, it's not. And so, like, it's the balancing act of like how do you balance like your skill level and what's a knit, what's not a knit, and then
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you forget to put a knit and it's really a knit,
Right.
and it
Yeah.
becomes a big problem. It's like, okay,
That's why I try and get in the habit of just doing it all the time. It's just easier to like remember to do it every time than to like
Yep.
remember, oh, should I have done it here? So that's just,
Hmm.
my case. And I didn't even know about it until a previous job, and I really
Yeah.
liked the way that it worked. It was nice. Okay. So, what is Gridiron Survivor actually? I'm curious
Hmm.
about that.
Yeah. Gridiron Survivor is an NFL survivor pool. My friend Rudy was manually tracking like 200 entries and I don't know, 100 people or maybe more than that on a spreadsheet. And he would have to email us and text us and say, "Hey, send me your pics." And we would have to we had to manually email him or text him our pics, and then he has to manually go insert them in, right? So I
Oh
said,
wow.
"Hey, why don't we just build an app for you? Like we could just build an app. It makes sense. Like we could do that." And so that's where it grew. And then I also saw that there was a gap where there's a lot of people on Twitter that were trying to break into tech and they couldn't. And when I review their portfolios, I would always say the same thing. Your projects are not good enough. You need better projects. You need open source projects. You need more projects that are just not templated. You need more depth. And and how are they going to get that? Unless if they get a job, a freelance, apprenticeship, internship, but it's very hard to get that. So I said, well, let's bring a bunch of juniors in and try to build this thing and I'll oversee it. So that's where the birth came in. And pretty much in an NFL Survivor pool is there's 17 weeks in an NFL season. Every week, there's, I don't know, like 16 games, right? You choose one team out of that week. You choose team A. What if you survive, you move on to the next week. But if you lose, then your entry is gone. So you could have, depending on the league, our league, we have up to 5 entries. So if 4 out of my 5 entries are gone and I have one left, and then I survive towards the end and I'm the last one, then I win the league. But
Mm.
if all my entries are eliminated, then I'm out of the whole entire league, and whoever survives at the end wins the prize. So it's a week to week basis. And so if my entry one chose team A on week one, I can't choose them again on week two. But if my entry
Ooh.
two chose team B, I can still use team A in week two. So every entry is
Okay.
an independent like independent track. Like it's all independent. So yeah, multiple ways, multiple options to get to be the lone survivor. So as you dwindle down, right, in the NFL, there are some very good teams and some very bad teams. And as the season dwindles down, it gets way harder to choose the winner because the best teams will be all chosen for your entry. And then you're forced to choose a team that you're like, oh, I don't know if they're going to win, but I have to choose them. And then
Mm-hmm.
that's when it gets hard. So that's a part of it. And we're trying to make it into a SaaS so that next year we could start selling seats and stuff like that for this application, kind of seeing where it goes. But
Sure.
along, number one thing is to have these individuals learn the process, learn building an enterprise level application, learn working together, learn the communication skills, and having this opportunity to get the exposure of what they're doing. One thing that I saw from one individual was I worked with him directly. I knew he was really good, but the people interviewing him did not. So I said, how do we showcase that? How do we
Sure.
showcase that to people out there and companies out there? And one thing we're doing is we're live streaming every Thursday to kind of just do sprint demos. Like Chris came on last time, just to kind of showcase Grid Kraken, having our sponsors come on and just having conversations and showing our process because
Mm-hmm.
as we show individual companies out there what these individuals are doing, it's gonna hopefully shed some light that hey, like these people, they're actually getting real world experience. It may not be like a company or whatnot, but the process that I run, when they come on to your team, it'll be easier for them to get onboarded on. We had an individual, he got an internship at a company, and the reason why they chose him is because he's been through this process and they said it was so much easier to choose this person because he's gone through the agile process. He's done pull requests. He's done sprint planning. He's done merge conflicts, like all these things that you do on a day to day. It was like even though he might not be the most skilled, he has that process in place or at least understanding of it. It's easier for us to bring that person on as an intern than the 100 other candidates that we have. So I was like, that's great feedback because that's exactly what I'm trying to do with the Gridiron Survivor project.
Yeah, that's a great point. I started out, I did some freelancing stuff, and that got
Mhm.
me like the knowledge of like doing the client handoff and like scoping out a project,
Yeah.
estimating, like a bunch of those things.
Mhm.
So then my first job for an agency or consultancy or whatever you want to call it
Mhm.
ended up being like, well, yeah, like you've already got that part. I needed to learn the sprint part, like
Mhm.
sprint and agile and all that, because that was brand new.
Yeah.
But it was fun and
Yeah.
like easier because I had already done the client kind of stuff. So yeah, like just
Mhm.
getting some of that knowledge ahead of time before your first job is
Oh,
really
yeah.
useful. I like that.
Oh yeah, so useful, and that's been the problem is how do we showcase? So that's why I tell them to build in public, share the things you're learning, share the sprint boards, share your tickets, share everything. Like you never know when somebody's gonna be like, "Hey, I love what you're doing. I've been following you for a while. If you apply or you have applied, I already kind of can." And then if they look at your feed too, right? Your social media feed, they can see what you're doing. Like, oh, you've done this, you've done that. You're actually not a super beginner. You've done a lot of things that we are kind of doing already, right? Because every company does their own kind of version of agile. But
Mm-hmm.
if you've gone through that process, it's better than it's like, oh, it's not brand new for you. You understand how to communicate when you get stuck. You understand how to move tickets along. I think people still get messed up with that. Is no, move your ticket to the next swim lane. What is that? Why do you
Yep.
do that? I have 10 in the progress. No, 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 no. Don't have 10. Only have one at a time.
Yep.
So it's just like a process that you have to learn. And then if you want to do, then it's a lot easier to onboard you.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I like that. So yeah, we're definitely getting close to time. I don't want to take up,
You
too
know?
much extra. Is there any like other stuff you wanted to make sure that the audience knew about?
Yeah, because this is more like a team-based conversation, I would say this is I coach my daughter's volleyball team and my son's volleyball team, and they're second, third grade, fourth, fifth grade, right? They're really young. And for me, it felt the same as mentoring junior engineers. The reason why I say that is because both are inexperienced, both don't have fundamentals in place, but you think that they kind of have some form of fundamentals in place and they can do certain things, right? But the reality is, no, they you have to take it from baby steps, like infancy. Like you have to consider that they know nothing. When I coached my kids' volleyball teams, they didn't even know how to hold their hands together, how to bump. They didn't
Right.
even know that they can take one step to the left and get the ball. They were just standing still, waiting for the ball to come to them. And I said, no, 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 no. The ball's not going to come to you. You have to step and go to the ball.
That is such a good
And
metaphor. I
yeah,
really like that.
and you just don't know how many times I've told them that you can move. You can move to the ball. And then after like the fifth, sixth time, they started to understand it. The same
Right?
thing with juniors, you know?
Yeah, for junior devs, like you can
Yeah.
move. You're not in
Yeah.
one place. You can be dynamic. Like
Yeah,
that's
you can
great.
be
I love that.
dynamic. Evolve. You if you don't know something, tell me. Tell us if you don't
Yeah.
know something. Don't be like, I need to know this. I can't tell them I don't know it because they're gonna fire me. No, we hired you or we have you on the team because we know that you're raw, but you have potential. But tell us how we can get you to that mid level, how you can get there. If we don't understand your flaws and the things that you don't know, how can we help you get there? You're continuously going to have that gap, right? And so so coaching and mentoring was very similar to me. I was like, there's so much patience that you have to have. You had to build their fundamentals up. One thing that I do in volleyball is I watch the other teams, and when they serve, they don't use their body momentum. They don't step forward with their foot and then serve. They just stand still and use their arms. And if you use your arms, you think of it, second, third graders, right? They're very small. They don't have a lot of power. But my teams, when they step, they use their body to push the ball forward, and that
Mm-hmm.
fundamentally helps them. And for my daughter's team, I've had a few of them for like 4 years now. They're so much better because they don't even have to think about stepping anymore. They already are. They're doing it. It's the same thing with engineering, right? You teach them the skills, like I told you earlier. Can you go figure that out, right? Well, or can we make this better? Once you grasp those concepts and understand how your brain finds solutions, like how to Google better and all this stuff, then you're going to advance and get better so much faster than getting stuck for 3, 4 years and not leveling up and all that stuff. All these things, there's so many like skills that you have to learn that are just not engineering, right? Like soft skills, communication skills, all these things. If you can't learn those things and build a strong foundation, then you're not going to be able to move that fast.
Yeah, exactly. Like basically, you mentioned where people are like afraid to speak up because they're maybe afraid of being seen as not smart enough or not as good as people thought
Yeah.
they were. They're going to feel like the imposter. That imposter syndrome never goes away, in my
Yeah,
opinion,
never,
right? Even
never,
seniors have those gaps. Like,
never
you just
ever.
have to embrace it. Yeah. So, yeah, this was great. Thank you so much for coming on the show. And yeah, looking forward to chatting more again in the future just for fun. Maybe hopping on Gridiron Survivor again.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you so much for
Awesome.
joining me today. And we will see everyone on the podcast next time. Cheers.
All right. Bye, everyone.